at a high level and not be fully involved in their life in real estate. And what I realized is I was really just living my life in chaos. And what I was doing is I was creating my own chaos. And I saw that once I started doing the deeper work on myself. It was like, holy shit, like everything that I've been experiencing for the last 16 years, even though I actually love the job aspect of real estate, like working with clients, negotiating contracts, finding good deals, selling homes I enjoyed that part, but everything else about it was just not for me. And I realized how much chaos I was bringing into my life. And I wasn't just bringing it into my own life, it was bringing it into my relationship. It was bringing it into my relationship with the rest of my family members. It was bringing it into my relationship with my son.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Mediocre Dads, where being mediocre is a choice and you have to refuse to be mediocre every single day. I'm your host, Queon. I go by Q. I'm going to say this in the beginning. If you're on YouTube and watching this, Spotify, wherever you're at, please like and subscribe to the Mediocre Dads channel. It helps a lot, and we want to grow the channel. Goal is 500, ultimately 1,000, and then just reaching on beyond that. If I'm rushing, it's because there's a purpose, because we were talking beforehand, and I was like, I'm just going to press record so we can get right into this conversation, guys. I guess here is Aaron, and I'm going to allow Aaron to introduce himself in a second, but I talked to his wife, a couple of days ago. It was a phenomenal conversation. I loved the conversation, and she was like, yeah, you and my husband will have a lot in common. You guys will hit it off. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm looking forward to it, and we're finally here. I'm super excited, but Aaron, as I was saying, sorry, because ADHD brain, if I don't do it, it's gonna irritate me. So I'm happy to have a son on the way, as I was telling you, right? So like, I'm happy to have a son on the way, but it's very nerve wracking, right? Because I have 2 daughters, and so like, I understand how daughters work, and every man has this idea in their head of like, oh yeah, having a son one day is gonna be great, but then you're just like, yeah, okay, but if I have 2 daughters and having a son, am I manly enough still? Like, because like, I feel like if when I punish my daughters, I feel so bad, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, you're so precious. I don't want to punish you, but you also there's consequences. Whereas a son, I'm like, I feel like right now, like, nah, you do something wrong, it's like, all right, man, keep playing with the church's money. You're going to find out what's going to happen. I can give you the people's elbow, I don't know. So I know you have a son. So like, for you, did you always want a son?
I mean, well, first I want to just honor you for having this podcast show. Like, thank you for having me on. I'm looking forward to this conversation. My wife told me right away that you are going to just hit it off when you guys talk to one another. So I was excited about that coming on here. And back to your question, was I excited about having a son? Absolutely. And what I didn't know is I thought I was going to be having a girl. In fact, my wife and I both thought we were having a girl right to the very moment. And, I'm okay to say this. I'm sure she'd be okay too. She was pushing him out. She was screaming, she's coming. She's coming. And then when he came out, we were like, she is not here. We were both so sure that we were going to have a daughter. And so it was such a blessing because we didn't find out what the sex was. And so we got the first surprise. It was a surprise for both of us. Very great.
So you guys, you know what? I commend couples who do that, because me and my wife, we were like, so I don't like surprises. I'll just be very frank. I do not like surprises.
Yeah.
Because I like to be in the know. But my wife, when we first got married, she's kind of like, oh, I don't mind surprises. But now she's like, I've rubbed off on her enough where she's like, I don't like surprises either. Just tell me what we're doing, and then I'll enjoy the moment. I don't need to be surprised that you're taking me to a steak restaurant. Tell me you're taking me to a steak restaurant, so I know I can prepare myself on what I need to look like, and 2, the moment I need to be in, right?
Right.
But anyway, at this point now, like, I don't like surprises. So like when she's like, oh, it's just like, we can let it be a surprise. I'm like, absolutely not. The moment you can find out, I want to know. I
Yeah.
want to know. And so like I commend any couple who's like, yeah, we're just gonna wait and we're just, we'll figure it out when the baby comes. How do you buy anything? How do you prepare for that? Like, did you guys prepare for a girl and like did you like buy all girl things and then be like, ooh, we got to return all that?
Well, it's interesting enough. We didn't prepare that far in advance. We were
Okay,
going, the mutual colors. We're still 50-50 on what could happen here. But I'm like you. I like to be as prepared as possible in any situation. So normally I would like to find out what the sex is. And in fact, when we have our next child, we may or may not. We still haven't decided that yet. And when the time comes, we'll decide. But it was something very interesting that somebody had said to me when we first became pregnant that actually led us to not knowing what the sex was and leaving it as a surprise. Somebody shared with me that this is actually one thing in life that can be a surprise, right? Like
yeah,
there's so many things that happen in our lives that don't we have control over. We get to see, find out what it is, plan ahead. This could be the one thing in your life that you could leave to be a surprise, to have something in life that is a surprise for you. So with that in mind, we thought, yeah, you know what, you're right. Let's roll the dice. Let's see what happens, and let's see if it's a girl or a boy. We'll find out on the day of.
dang, that's awesome. You know what? Look, I never thought of it that way, and that is truthfully, I do like that. However, I want to know.
Yeah,
It
of
does
course.
not change my mind that I want to know. That's awesome. I'm sorry. So before we get too deep into it further, Aaron, can you kind of briefly just tell the audience who you are and a little bit about yourself? I know, guys, we're doing things out of order, but trust me, it's going to be a great conversation, and this is why this is one of the reasons I do love the podcast because it could go anywhere. But Aaron, please, you have the floor.
Yeah, and I actually have a question about that to come back and circle back to, but I'll quickly introduce myself.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
Yeah, my name is Aaron Sosa. Like you had mentioned, my wife was on the show a few days ago, and my wife and I, what we do is we co-facilitate community called Vive. And what we do on that community for our members is we do breathwork integration. So because we know that there's a lot of trapped emotions that get trapped within the body. So we do breathwork so we can somatically release those things. And at the same time, we also do community calls so that we're able to connect with one another. And then we also tap in and deeper into relationship mastery, relationship itself, so that we can have relationships with everybody else. And then I also lead men's circles, helping men with self-sabotage, patterns that don't serve them, addiction. And that's basically what my mission is really to help other men out there, because I feel like, for me, somebody had done that for me a few years ago, really stepped in and really took a stand for who I was being. And I had a lot of realizations for it. And I wanted to return the favor to other men out there. And not only that, is that I realized that our generation of men are the fathers of all the next generations that are coming here. So I want to make a difference for all the future kids that are coming into this world as well. So it starts there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. And guys, listen, I know, like I said, it's out of order, but when I get excited to have a conversation with somebody on the show, I am just like, hey, there's some things we go through, and sometimes we don't have to go through. The perks of being the person that's in charge of the show, I suppose. So, selfishly, I apologize if you guys are used to the flow of it, but getting right into it, you said you had a question, Aaron. What was your question?
Yeah, I just was curious with your share, because you said you don't like surprises. So
Yeah.
when did that start for you? Like, where did that stem from? Was there an event that happened in your life?
Man, there. You know what? I would say there probably was, but if to actually remember what that event was, I don't know. But I do know it started at a younger age where I just didn't understand or care for the, hey, we're gonna throw a surprise party for such and such, and it's gonna be great. And I'm just like, that's kind of stupid. I mean, like the person knows it's their birthday, they haven't forgotten their birthday. They're just wondering if you forgot their birthday. That's one. Number two, to have this person go through and this is how I think it's pretty messed up, right? To go have this person go throughout their day thinking that their friends or their close ones, loved ones, forgot about their birthday, to in the end them come home having felt this all day just for you to surprise them. They're surprised, all right, but they're
Mhm.
surprised to the point where they're like, I don't know if I should hug you or punch you in the throat. That is that's where they're at. So
I've been,
you know what I mean? So for me, I'm you want me to be excited right now because you're like, look, I look at what I planned, but I feel like you're trying to make my birthday about you rather than about me. When you could have just said, hey man, we're gonna throw a party. We're gonna throw a party for your birthday, our celebration. Don't worry about anything. Great. I already know it's my birthday. I already assume there's gonna be a party. So when I come home, you don't need to surprise me that it's a party. You just surprise me maybe that there's so many people here and this is the party. This is what we're doing at the party, and or we're going somewhere. That is more of a surprise. That is better of a surprise to me than hey, surprise. Yeah, I saw the 50 cars parked on the block, dude. I'm not dumb. I'm just upset because I'm happy you remember my birthday, but why did you have to wait till the end of the day? I still had to go to work today. You know what I mean? I don't know. Anyway, not speaking from experience. For me, surprises have always been a thing where I guess it doesn't really make sense because I've always seen them more for related to people's birthdays or anniversaries or like certain holidays, and rather than a real genuine surprise to me is coming home and my wife is like, hey, the last 2 days I noticed you're pretty stressed out. So what I decided to take the girls out to a movie tonight, and you just hang out like that. That to me is like, oh, cool. I like that. Not like something that's like everybody knows coming, like a birthday or an anniversary or something.
for
So
sure.
that's where it comes from me. I don't know, but you mentioned you're not a fan of surprise. You like to know, but do you enjoy the hey, someone's like, hey, surprise birthday party type thing, or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, I actually still enjoy surprises, but I'm a planner for sure. Like I like to have everything, all the ducks in a row, but every once in a while I don't mind a good surprise. And I did have a follow-up question for you.
Okay.
Do you remember at any age if you ever had a surprise birthday?
No,
No. Okay.
no.
Interesting.
So I am a identical twin. And me and my twin brother, we were adopted when when we were 2 years old.
Right.
And by an all white family, which again I told your wife it's not a big deal, but it's an important part of important part of who we are. So being a twin, you don't your birthday is always going to be about someone. It's always about two people. It's never about just one person. So even though oh it's your birthday, it's always it's your guys' birthday, right? And so growing up, it was just kind of like you're not surprising. There's two of us. You have to get past two of us, and let's just be honest, it's harder to get past two people than it is one person. And so no, we never really had a surprise birthday. So yeah, yeah, but
Well, thanks for hearing that. That's an amazing story right there.
yeah, no, absolutely. It being being adopted is one of those things where I tell people, and then it's for some people, they give me the saddest puppy dog look on their faces when I tell them I was adopted, and I'm like, I didn't need all that. I just
No.
it's an important part of my story of who I am. But they're like,
Absolutely.
oh my gosh, that must have been. Do you know your birth? I don't. No, I don't know. I know who they are, but I don't know them. So it's I don't know. It's one of those things where it's a part of who I am, but for me, it's just been my life, and so I understand the questions because but still, it's very very interesting. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you though. So you said before we press record that you were in real estate, and this is kind of going to be like a two-part question for me in my head, of course. But first being, you said you left real estate last year to follow your passion, which is what you're doing now.
Right.
How did that come about? Did you always know what you're doing now was going to be your passion, or was it you were just like, hey, I'm doing real estate and it's just it just doesn't feel fulfilling to me?
Yeah, it was a bit of both of those things, actually. Doing real estate, I always knew in my heart that it wasn't truly what I wanted to do. I did it because, it pays decent and in a way, I think it was satisfying my ego because when you're a realtor and you're doing business at a high level, then you're somebody, right?
Yeah.
So, for me, that's sort of what was pushing me and driving me in that direction. It was all about myself. When I first got married to my wife and she actually became a breathwork facilitator, I could see how passionate she was about doing what she did and helping other people. And I used to always tell her, like, you are so lucky to do what you love to do because
Yeah.
no, I don't. And it was difficult for me to really accept that because back to your other question, if I knew what I really wanted to do, I didn't know. And then until things really started to uncover, until different events started happening in my life and it started making me realize what was I really passionate about and what was really fulfilling me inside. And it just got to a point where I really realize, because if you know about real estate, you're working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. If
Yeah.
you're managing a team, you're helping all the other team members. They're calling you at all times of the day, of the night. You're helping your clients, in the middle of the night, like things are happening. And I don't care what anybody says or what your role is. Like there's a very small percentage that is able to do it at a high level and not be fully involved their life in real estate. And what I realized is I was really just living my life in chaos. And what I was doing is I was creating my own chaos. And I saw that once I started doing the deeper work on myself, it was like, holy shit, like everything that I've been experiencing for the last 16 years, even though I actually love the job aspect of real estate, like working with clients, negotiating contracts, finding good deals, selling homes I enjoyed that part. But everything else about it was just not for me. And I
Yeah.
realized how much chaos I was bringing into my life. And I wasn't just bringing it into my own life, it was bringing it into my relationship. It was bringing it into my relationship with the rest of my family members. It was bringing it into my relationship with my son. And when my son was born 2 years ago, that's when I was like, okay, it's time to make a change. When I realized that first year, I barely even spent any time with him because in my mind, all I had to do was go out there and I had to work because that's what most of us are driven to do as fathers is we need to provide. And I'm not saying you don't, you need to provide, of course, but you're not, if you're out there spending all that time, what I realized after my son turned 1 is that, damn, this goes by really quick. And when that time passes us by, we're not getting it back. And
Yeah.
so that's when they started to slowly make the shift, started doing more of what really I became more passionate about. And which led me on a different route. It led me into, I started doing sound baths. I started doing ceremony for plant medicine. I started doing breathwork facilitation. I started doing coaching. All those things started building up and really started feeling fulfilled in what I was doing.
That's awesome. So were you working towards something? So like usually like in when you're working in an organization or group, you're like, okay, I'm working towards this promotion. And once I get that promotion, then I'll be good and where I could take a step back, or I don't know in real estate if there's really that, say you're working towards this thing. Uh, and then was it, for when you had your son, I won't, like, I guess not a question, but it's more a statement. But for me, what I realize is when we have kids is we say we're willing to do things as men, like we're like, hey, I'm willing to make all this, make this money, do what I need to do, provide. But then when our kids come and we're like, I'm willing to provide, but like at what cost? Like at what cost? At what point do I say like, hey, enough? I need to still raise my kids. You know what I mean? So like, we can't get lost in the monotony or the rat race of like, I have to do this thing, I have to do this thing, but we still
Absolutely.
want to provide and we still need to provide. So I guess my first question would be were you working towards something as a real estate agent to say, hey, like my goal is to own X and be able to oversee this, and then I'll be able to chill and then really get to do the things that I want to do? Or was it like, hey, I just have to keep going because I need my family needs to eat?
Yeah, see, with real estate, I think we're all driven a certain way. As crazy as it is, there's always the next goal. And I was surrounded by a lot of people that did real estate at a high level. And it was interesting because even though some of those agents were making millions of dollars, it was interesting when I actually looked at the lifestyle they're living. I looked at it and I was like, I didn't want that. I could see that even though they were making this so much money and they're providing for the families and maybe they had all these materialistic items, I could see, there was still gaps in their finances. There were still gaps in their relationships. They were busy working all the time. They weren't even connecting with their kids.
Yeah.
And when I was looking at that, it was like, okay, I realized the more volume I do, the more I'm going to probably need to be involved. The bigger team that I have, the more energy I'm going to need to take on, and the more handholding I'm going to have to do as well. And as I started to build my team, like you asked me before, was that every year was a new goal, to hit a new target, hit a new number, to build a team, to be the top 1%. Like, and it's interesting enough because every time you achieve one of these things, you are just looking for the next one. And with real estate, it's cycles, it's ups and downs. And so, it was challenging for me to also see agents struggle when things weren't going great.
Yeah.
It's like I take that on. I really do care for the people that I work with. And so it was the beginning of this year where I had to decide. I said, I have to actually stop caring about everyone else so much and start caring about myself. Because in a way, what I was doing, it was like a coping mechanism, me trying to help everybody. It was like
Yeah.
I stopped drinking alcohol, a couple of years ago, but it's just like me going and having a drink, or it's me overworking or overeating, right? All those things. You can overwork. And for me, it was an escapism to try to help become other people, try to become successful. And that at the end of it, I wasn't even helping myself.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I love helping people, or like I really do. I do have this passion to want to help people, and it gets frustrating though because some people don't want to help themselves as much as I want to help them, and it starts leaking into my peace, if you will, right? Like to be like I may be at peace, but then I'm always constantly worried, like, okay, if this person would just listen to me this way, their life would have been different and they've gone down this way. Then, I bring it at home and then next thing you know, like, it's just all of me is just frustrated and upset. And it's just cause I deal with a lot of soldiers. I had a platoon of 20 plus soldiers. And so, it was stressful, and like in the beginning, I was like, oh yeah, I loved this stress. Like I was like, this is the stress that I need. Like, this is good stress. I would tell myself this is good stress.
Yeah.
And then when I was finally moved and went and did something else, I was like, oh my gosh, that was terrible. Like, like it was just like, it was miserable, but like, it was one of those things where I thought like, I was like, I thought this is what I wanted. I thought that's what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be in the position I wanted to be in, but it wasn't, because it was just like, it was stressing me way, way too much. Like, it actually is the reason. So a lot of good came out of it, right? But it's one of the reasons I did stop drinking myself, where I was like, because I would come home and I say, well, I have earned a drink today. And it's like, like literally I was sitting there like, I solved so many problems. Like, I solved the soldier's pay issue, even though I was more concerned about his pay issue than he was concerned about his pay issue. But I also know the flip side of that is, if I wasn't as concerned for his pay issue in the end, and it didn't get rectified, well, guess what? He would have blamed me for not caring about his pay issue, even though the soldier didn't care about his pay issue until I was the one who was actually doing everything that he should have been doing. Anyway, I digress. I don't need to be that stressed out, but these soldiers pissed me off. So that was my life, where I was just like, oh my gosh, constantly stressed out. So I definitely feel that. But one of the things I wanted to kind of get into with you was, okay, so like, you were able to leave that and go into what is clearly your passion and do what you love now. But a lot of men are not able to do that, right? For example, like, my passion is talking to people. I love doing that. I love doing this. And I would love, in a way, for maybe at one point for this to be like, this is what I do full time. This is how I provide for my family. But as of right now, there's not a way forward for that. And it's not an excuse. It's not by any means an excuse to say like, oh, I can't do it, so it's never going to happen. It's just a means of, it's just a living it for me. I call it living a reality to know like, hey, to know what my left and right limits are. And right now, this is perfect what I'm doing. And then when I'm ready to expand and when I'm ready to grow and the Lord will provide and he'll tell me when I'm ready for all those things, I'll do those things and I'll go forward for that. But like also a lot of, like I said, for where I'm at right now is perfect. But a lot of men are not able to do that. And so for you, were you at a place, or I guess I would assume you were, but you were at a place where you said, hey, like I can leave this and I can go follow my passion and do what I need to and still be successful in there and not have that worry of like, am I going to be able to put food on the table for my family? Am I going to be able to provide? Is there going to be gas in the car? Is my son going to be able to go to the school that I want him to go to? Whatever the case might be, right? You know, like, so was that something that was in the back of your mind as you made that shift, or was it like, hey, this is a passion of mine, and I know, like, I believe that I can be successful, and I just could put my best foot forward?
Yeah, that's a really great question, because I feel like what you explained, the two scenarios, I was living both of them. And it wasn't that, all my ducks were in a row when I made this switch and made this move. It really was the belief behind it. And I was going to say for you too, because with everything that you just shared with me and how you expressed everything, it's like maybe one day it could happen. And I was that same way too for years. Like when I told you, I used to talk to my wife, you're so lucky to do what you want to do. I can't wait for one day when I'm able to do that. That was that maybe one day it could happen mentality. And what happened for me, it was the belief. It all started with the belief. Once I knew that this is exactly what I want to do, this is what I deserve, and this is what my passion truly is, and really knew that from my heart, there's nothing that can stop that. That's
Yeah.
before you're sharing so many good things, because it was so relatable about when you were talking about working with the other troops, and you almost want it more than they, you express that. I used to have that feeling all the time, and it was so interesting. And I wanted to ask you, did you ever see like a reflection that sometimes what you were looking and seeing in that troop member was actually a reflection of maybe what you were avoiding for yourself in your own life in some way or form, or something like that? I'm just curious if that ever happened.
Yes. Easy answer. 100% yes. So it's this is going to be a freaking phenomenal podcast, guys. So I have ADHD, and I don't say that to say that it's an excuse on why I can't do certain things or I'm unable to do certain things, right? I say that as a pretext because it is a huge part of my life, even though I have tried to deny it that it was for a good portion of my life. Like for a good portion of my life, I have tried to do this whole thing where I have ADHD, but it's like not as bad. But like the reality is, no, like excuse me. The reality is, like, I have ADHD to the point where I have ADHD, and it's like I just need to recognize it, come to grips with it, but also need to understand how to navigate my life with having ADHD. So that's important, right? So to answer your question, why I answer so quickly and say yes is because there are so many things that I would like to be doing, right? So like the job that I have in the military, I'll be very frank with you. I don't like it. I don't enjoy doing it. I thought I would. Like I really thought. Like I had told myself before I got into it, I was like, this is the dream job. This is a job that I thought that I didn't know existed, that I always wanted, and I'm in it, and I don't care. I don't like what I do. A lot of it, it has to do with the people within the organization, but I don't like what I do in the military because it goes against, for me, it goes against what ultimately what I believe my purpose in life is, and that is to help people. and I want to help people. I want to be in a position more to help people rather than trying to get people. So my job is Army counterintelligence, and so we investigate national security crimes, sedition, sabotage, treason, terrorism, all these things, all these for the Army, right? The Army's personnel and its assets. That's what we do for the Army. So it's a great job in the sense of like, and as far as title comes from, like I am a special agent, right? Like, so like it's a great, it's great in that aspect, but like, I'm telling you, I don't care like for what I care because it's my job and that's what I get paid to do. So I do it, but I don't like doing it, right? Like I want, my passion is truthfully what I would like to do is to be a counselor. And it's a counselor and a pastor, right? So those are like, and I know pastors can be counsel. Where I'm at right now in my life is I lean towards more of, I want to do more of the counseling, but if the Lord wants me to be a pastor in the future, which I do believe he wants me to, I will do that. But anyway, I say because that's truthfully where my passion is and what I want to do. I just don't know what that looks like yet. And so the Army, being in the Army for 11 years now, it's a big part of my life where I'm like, okay, well, if I do 9 more years, I can retire and then I can get the retirement and disability. And then I have the funds, to get to kind of do the things that I've always wanted to do. Right. And so that's kind of where that mindset goes.
Yeah.
And that's what directly answer your question is why I say yes so quickly is because ultimately, holy crap, all I want to do is help people. And so like when I'm helping these soldiers and they're like, they come to me and they have an issue, I'm like, I'm honored because you came to me because you're like, hey, I have this issue, I need help solving it. And you feel like, hey, he's the best person to help me solve this problem. So I'm like, awesome. What is it? What's the issue? And based off my experience, let me see if I can help you figure it out. If I don't know the answer, I know somebody who does. I know plenty of people I can help. And they're like, well, we have to, for example, if I have to go talk to a higher ranking person, the soldiers will get someone will get nervous and they'll be like, well, hey, I don't know. We just have to go talk to that person. I'm like, okay, I'll go to their office right now. I mean, sorry. I'm like, relax, I got this. I'll leave. I'll come back and they'll be like, and they're like, you just went. I was like, yeah, I knocked on the door. I told them they know who I am. And I said, hey, this is what the issue I'm having. I tell people all the time, it's like, you gotta talk to people. So for example, I won't walk in there and say, hey, this is what I need, A, B, and C. I'll walk in there and say, hey, how's everything going? Hey, I mean, last time we were talking, you said you and your family went to the zoo. How did the zoo go? Are you guys planning on doing anything else? Sounds awesome. Yeah. And I'll be like, in the end, I'll be like, hey, here for selfish reasons, need some help. Soldiers doing A, B, and C. They're like, oh man, I get it. And then I'm like, hey, are you able to help me with this? They're like, yeah, too easy. And we get it done. But like, I was gone for 20 minutes. But to them, it was just like, you went in there, I went in there and I just went boom, boom, boom. I was like, no. One, I treated the person that I was talking to like another person because that's what they are. That's one. And number two, they understood that why I came for them for help. I also didn't just come to them and say, hey, I need your help. You're the person to help me with. Do it. It was, hey, you have a life. I care more about your life, but then the helping, if you can, great. If you can't, it's too easy. I'll figure out another way. And so I say all of that to say is I love helping people. It's just what I'm doing right now in the military doesn't feed that passion. And so when I get to help soldiers, that's where the excitement comes from. And for me, it's the part of my life where I'm like, all I wanted to be doing is answering that calling of helping people. Yeah. And I just don't know how to do that yet in the sense of how I imagine or envision it should be, right? Like whether that's being a counselor sitting in a counseling room or whether that's standing in the pulpit and preaching and whatever the case might be, or I don't know, or the podcast, which is crazy because the podcast is growing and then in ways that I never imagined, but then also it's growing slowly where I'm like, maybe this is not, I don't know how it's going to be in a few years. Right. But also maybe this is the part where I get to help people. And then for me, I never imagined it was going to come through this. So I have no idea, but like, that's this kind of where all that comes from for me. And where I do love helping people, but I do appreciate the question. It's something I pondered before, but yes.
Yeah. What I heard in all of that is you are serving already in so many ways. It just isn't exactly how you pictured it to be. And even with the podcast, I know we're not physically, talking. You're talking to usually one person or maybe two,
Yeah.
but you're actually serving thousands of people. And, we always do this. Is what we do is we always compare to like other podcasts, other shows. And right away, your comparison was, we're not growing as fast, but it all stems back to belief. And I believe God's timing is perfect timing.
100%.
The way you're growing is perfect the way it is. And like for me, I didn't know either what I was going to do, to be honest with you. I was like, that's why I was going so hard in real estate, because I had no idea what my passion was going to, play out for me. And it wasn't until 14 years into my real estate career where I started to have a shift in my life, and things started to happen. And from there, slowly, I started to begin to transition. And so, I mean, you're only 11 years in. You got at least another 3-4 years.
Well, it's funny. It's funny. If so, I'm at this point right now in my military career, this transition point, if you will, or this it's a determination point, right? So like I have to decide, I have to make a decision, and the decision I have to make is to sign what we call an indefinite contract, meaning it's until we are until I reach that point of where I can retire, which is 20 years in the military, which is for me would be 9 more years. Signing that contract, which means, hey, you're stuck in the sense, barring, nothing happens to me, but I'm stuck as long as I can continue to serve until that time. Or I decide not to do that and I leave the military. But when I do leave, ultimately when my contract is coming to an end, it will put me at 14.
Right. Wow. Look at that.
Sorry guys, if you're watching, I have allergies right now. Texas and it's annoying. It's frustrating. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, like I'm at that point. So like, but if I don't do that, if I choose not to do that, and I just choose to wait to just finally like kind of come to an end of my career and say I'm gonna get out, I'd be at 14 years. My fear of getting out and doing that is there's a couple things, right? One is everything that I've done up to that point would have been for nothing, right? And that feeds the second part, which is 2, is I'm 6 years from being eligible to fully retire. And at being fully eligible to retire, and also on top of retirement disability, that would bring in for me roughly about $7,000 to $8,000 a month that is tax-free, for 20 years of service in the military in the United States. I don't know how other militaries work in that regards, but that's tax-free for me, right, for the rest of my life. And that means medical care for my family, coverage for my family. That means for me for the rest of my life, and a continuous check for the rest of my life. And I'm only 38 years old at that point when I do retire. And so it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, for the monetary benefit and the rest of your life benefit, it's totally worth it, right? And anybody listening will probably be like, if that's the case, then just freaking do it. Suck it up and do it, right? The other part of that is sitting there saying like, yeah, but I'm not happy. I'm not going to be happy for the next. I mean, I will be happy. There are moments of happiness, but as of right now, I'm not happy. So finding happiness and joy in the next 9 years, just to say like, hey, I did the thing. I retired. I did what everybody told me was the right thing to do. Yeah. When I could have been starting another career or something else that I was passionate about years ago, and had a much better outlook or view on life rather than just doom and gloom. So like, because right now, like I sit here with the affairs that's going on with the United States, it's today's November 5th. For those watching later on, it's November 5th. So today's the election day within the United States. So it's a big day, right? Yeah. And it's so like, depending who gets elected, depending and what happens around the world and whatever the case might be, the United States could find itself launched into potentially into another war, or God forbid, World War III. So like, having the reality of understanding, I'm in the United States military, I'm in the United States Army. Like, if that is the case, if that's were to happen, that means I have to go somewhere. That means I'm separated from my family. And I don't want that. I tell people all the time, I've been to the Middle East before. I've deployed to Afghanistan for 9 months, and I'm good. I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. I don't want another T-shirt. And I just, with that on the line, it just, for me, honestly, it scares me, because I'm like, I just don't want to go back there. I lost a friend over there, and he, so like, it sucks just to sit there and think like, so many soldiers nowadays are like, they think like, I want an opportunity to serve and I want to go out there and show that I'm a man and like I make my military service worth it and like all these things. Like, hey man, be grateful for that you've never had to go there. Be grateful that you've never had to be scared. Like I tell people, and this is where the genuine like where I care part of where I care comes from. And I always tell people when I try to express to them the passion, if you will, behind what I'm saying is I'll never forget this. I landed in Afghanistan at 2:00 in the morning. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I guess we're going to go to bed and we'll figure it out. No, the very first thing you do when you land in Afghanistan is you get a brief. And this brief is like a 20-minute brief about all the different sirens, the different threats, and the different things all around you that where you're introducing you to where you are, kind of some of the, kind of getting you oriented to where you're at within the local populace as far as Afghanistan goes, where the case might be, what the base looks like, all these things. That's a 20-minute brief. The biggest part of that brief is they talk about, hey, mortar rounds. When rockets get fired, and you'll hear with the siren, and it'll say incoming, incoming, incoming. You ever have I don't know if you have an iPhone, but on iPhone they have that alarm that sounds like you know what I'm talking about? So that is literally that's literally the sound it's making when mortar rounds get shot onto the base, and then it's just saying incoming, incoming, incoming. Right? I didn't sleep for the first 3 days after getting that brief. I didn't sleep for the first 3 days. The first 3 days I'm in country, I didn't sleep. And because it's just pure fear of just like, like we're going to actually get shot at. Like this is scary. Right? So like after the first one, because, if unfortunately, if you find yourself in the position after the first one, it was like, I was like pretty shooken. Right? But then after like the third one, you're like a veteran at this stat. You get like veteran status. You're just like, no, cool, good. Heard the explosion. All right, moving on about my day. And that's it. Like most people who've deployed, if you talk to them and they, when it comes to that, that's literally what it is. Like I'd be sleeping, and this dude someone would come wake me up, and they're like, hey, like we just got rocketed. Good. I'm like, clearly I'm okay. I'm sleeping. Leave me alone. They just want to get accountability. I was like, you see me, go away. I'm going to back to bed. But I heard it. It was just one of those things like, it didn't take me out. I'm still late. I'm still alive. So cool. I'm going back to bed. But I tell people, I was like, I don't want you to have to experience that. I don't want you to have to get comfortable with that. Like I am unfortunately comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And so like for me and the passion behind it and the soldiers, I'm just trying to help y'all. They just don't want to take it. But it goes back full circle, like I said, where it's one of those things. Sorry, I'm rambling, but it's just one of those things. It's just,
with all that you shared, it's absolutely crazy. And thank you for sharing that. It gives me perspective because I know nothing about that. Going back to that decision that you have to make, I'm just curious, now that you're having a son, and you know everything that you just shared with me, you know everything. If your son was in the exact same position as you are, what would be your advice to your son?
Man, I would want to know what his passion is. I would want to know what he says, like, because when you're making that decision, when I'm making the decision, it's like, it's part of me feels like it's choosing between what I want to do and be passionate, what I want passionate about, like what I would really like to make money off of doing, right? Still providing, because I still, as a man, I am a provider, and I need to provide for my family. It's an essential part of what I do. So anything that I do, I may be passionate about it, but the reality is for me, like there has to be some monetary gain for it because I do need to take care of my family. So for my son, though, if he has a family and whatever, he himself has a family in that case, it's like, hey man, the first thing, I'll put it this way. My father-in-law, when I first got married to my wife, and keep in mind, I was 19 years old when I got married,
kids.
Yes. But the first thing, one of the things he told me that lives in my head now will live in my head forever. Advice I give my friends even to this point is this is how he broke it down. He said, there's 5 priorities, right? And so the first one is God. The second one is my wife. The third one is my kids. The fourth one is my work. And the fifth one is me. So at the end of it, the 5th priority is me. So I need to make sure all 4 of those things are taken care of before I can take care of me. Now, it's not to say that I am not important, but it's for him, when he told me that, I didn't really understand it, but now I have realized that having my own family and having a son is, as a man, we are put with it. We have this burden of taking care of our family. And while we would wish and hope sometimes that we didn't have this burden, the reality is, if we didn't have that burden, could you imagine putting that burden on your wife?
Yeah.
Could you imagine putting that burden on your kids? You would never want them to have to shoulder that. So you, as the man, have to sit and a lot of it sounds unfair, but in a lot of ways, suck it up and say, I am the man. I made the decision to want to take care of my wife, to take care of my kids. I want them to be happy. So I have no problem shouldering this burden, but I can't shoulder this burden. I don't shoulder this burden by myself, because I tell people all the time, God, I put a lot on God. I put all of it on God, truthfully. And he is the reason why I'm able to look confident and sound confident and get through all of these challenges I incur in my life. With that being said, though, for my son, I would have to ask him, hey, what's your passion? What is the passion that you really have? And have you been working towards making your passion something worth of value? Meaning that there's going to be monetary gain out of it. Because my biggest thing, again, if you have a family, there has to be. If you don't have a family, if my son does not have family, it's just him rocking and rolling by himself. Hey, man, leave as soon as you can and go do whatever you want to do, because now's the opportunity to do it. Now's the opportunity to do that, to make more mistakes, truthfully, because there's the only person that hurts or inhibits if you make a mistake is yourself versus my family. The mistakes I make in the military, they have third or second and tertiary effects on my family. So like, I have to think about every decision that I make. I can't just make a decision based off of what does Queon want? How does Queon feel? So for my son, like I said, it has to be, hey man, if you're by yourself, find whatever your passion is, go for it. I want you to, and I'll help you. You need a place to live? I got you. You can live with me. You want to find their passion? If that means you pursuing your passion and finding success, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. So more for my son, that is, even for my daughters, that's what it is. It's one of those things where it's like, hey, I want you guys to have happiness. I want them to have joy. Like, I don't want them to have to feel the sense of like, oh my goodness, my dad was never able to do the things that he wanted to do because he had to take care of us. And it's like, no, like even now, right? Full circle moment, like when I come back to the podcast for me is a passion where I'm able to do my passion, but I'm also able to go do the job, go to work, go be a soldier, come home, hang out with the family, but also do the podcast. And so a lot of the time, I'll surmise with this, a lot of times we like to think that we're supposed to be somewhere else, but God puts us in places where we're supposed to be. And I tell people all the time, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I'm right where God wants me to be. It's just, I need to find comfort in the fact of I'm where God wants me to be, rather than thinking I need to be somewhere else. I should be somewhere else. And it means for me, I'm refusing to enjoy the moment. And rather than sit there and say like, well, because I'm not there, I can't enjoy today. Well, it's a total lie. I can enjoy today. I enjoy it, live it up, because I'm where I'm supposed to be. And that would be for any of those dads out there, is like, hey, you're where you're supposed to be. You may not where you want to be, but God has placed you where he wants you to be. And so learn to enjoy that. Enjoy that. And then when you get to where you want to be, that means God said, hey, you're ready for that. So
that's a beautiful analogy. And I believe that too, life's happening for us, not to us.
Yeah.
But I am curious about your priority list. You mentioned that you're fifth on the list. No, okay, I know that because I made myself fifth on the list before as well. How often do you get to yourself, knowing that you're going through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? How often are you able to actually fulfill on you being a priority when you're fifth on the list? I'm just curious.
So surprisingly, a lot. So, all right, guys, I'll be honest with you. I am a pretty selfish person. So there are a lot of times where where I have gone through that list where I said, okay, everyone's taken care of. And I'll come in so if you ask my wife, if my wife is sitting next to me right now, and she could attest to this completely. So the room I'm sitting in is with my office / studio, if you will.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time in this room. It's so like, I spend a lot of time in this room. And so, I do get a lot of that. I am grateful because my wife is amazing to where she's at the point where she's like, I understand that
Yeah.
he needs this. And in order for me, and I'm speaking on her behalf, if you will, but in order for her and my kids to get the best of me, she knows that I need this. And
Yeah.
by having this and doing this, I can give them the best. So like I am the fifth on that priority list, but I also learned at this point to when to cut it off. So what I mean by that is there's nothing those top three, they will always supersede Queon, no matter what. They will always supersede. Work is the one I have like with, but still it is I do need a sense of income. And
Yeah.
so those top three, there's nothing that will replace them. When it comes to work, I know when to cut it off. So like I've gotten to the point now where I'll come home and I'd bring it home with me because we're taught we're soldiers 24/7, and we're soldiers 24/7, right? And
Yeah.
however,
Totally.
I also know when to cut that off in the sense of like I'm a soldier 24/7. Like like people, if they called, like I have my uniform ready, I put it on, and I freaking, like a freaking cape, and I'd go do what I had to do, right? However, when I'm home, when I'm like on leave, like I am right now, work calls, I'll text you back. I'm not gonna call you back. I'll text you back. What's up? You know where I'm at. You know I'm on leave. What do you need? I'll text you. Like if it's an emergency, cool. I got you. What do we got? What's going on? We can figure that out. But if it's an emergency and you can't figure out what to do without me there, that needs that's another conversation we need to have because like I left. I went and did my thing. I left you in charge. You should be able to handle almost anything and everything that comes at you because I felt I was comfortable and confident to leave you in the position that I am in to do so. I do get to me. So like I said, I am a selfish person and such, but I still, so.
I didn't even hear you really being selfish. What I really heard is you have boundaries for yourself. And that is so important because you having boundaries is you still being able to fill your own cup before you give to your family. And that's what's so important. Like with me, I don't look at it the exact same way, but I definitely was at the bottom of the list for many, many years of my life. I used to think, hey, as long as I'm taking care of everybody else's priority in front of me, who cares? Like, who cares about me? Just forget, I don't need to sleep. I don't need to rest. I don't need the time to myself. Like everything was outwards to everybody else. And I was suffering for that. And what I heard in your share is like, you consider yourself on the lower on the list, but you still have very clear boundaries to take care of yourself so that you can still provide and be who you need to be, a loving husband, a loving father for your family. And that's amazing. Because for me, what I actually had to do is I had to change my belief around it. I actually had to put myself, God first, and I had to put myself at number two. That was the only way for me to really make me a priority. It's like that airplane going down analogy, right? When the masks drop from the ceiling, who do you put it on first? You don't put it on your wife and your kids. They always tell you got to put the mask on first, and then what you can do is you can help them next. And I didn't understand that. And in fact, I never even reached up for the mask at all. I was just always just going, thinking I gotta work hard, I gotta build my career, I gotta be there for my wife. And what I was doing is I was just showing myself no love, and it was reflecting in all my relationships around me until I had to make the belief and the change that, hey, you know what? I'm actually second. And once I started actually giving myself love by putting up boundaries in my life, then I was actually able to be there for everybody else. So a little bit of a different situation, but like I didn't have the boundaries that you have. I didn't have the space that you have. And so that's really amazing that you're able to do all that and still be who you are today. I love hearing that.
Yeah, no, it takes a lot. Like I tell people all the time, like it takes a lot. And some people, when it's funny, like, mentioned parent. I'll give you a perfect example. I've always wanted to go to Dubai. Always wanted to go to Dubai. Like I'm really jealous. I'm really jealous. So always wanted to go to Dubai because in Afghanistan, when the contractors, if they're out there for a year, they get R&R, and then it's 15 days. And so rather than flying all the way back to the States, they're making enough money. They'll fly their loved ones and they'll meet them in Dubai. and they'll freaking have their 14 days or whatever, or 13 days in Dubai, and then they'll come back to Afghanistan, and then their family flies back to the States, and then boom, that was their time. They got together, and whatever the case might be. And I say all that because a lot of the times where people will see, like, it's funny, they hear I have a podcast, and they see I have family. They're like, oh, you own your own home. Like, yeah, I have all these things. And so on the outside, they're like, oh man, life is great for you. Like, I had this friend all the time. He would tell me, he was like, oh, some of us don't have a podcast where you can just make money on the side. I'm like, I don't make any money from my podcast. Like, I just want to be very frank with everybody. I don't make any money from podcasts yet. Not yet.
Yes.
Merch is going to come out soon. Don't worry, guys. Right. You're going to be everyone be working wearing these shirts, I promise, and hats potentially, and freaking and then also other things. But anyway,
I want one. I want to rep it out here in Dubai.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll send you. Don't worry about it. And so even then, so it's like, a lot of people like to compare, but it's like, no, stop comparing yourself. Stop comparing yourself to your neighbor. Stop trying to keep up with the Joneses. You have your own path. We all have our own path. And rather, we're always, it's like you're walking your path, and then you look over to your right, and you see your best friend's path, and you see they're ahead of you on their path. But in all actuality, their path had a lot of curves in the beginning, and you guys are actually neck and neck, where you, from your perspective, from your lens, you're like, they're ahead of me, and I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And I'm just, it's just miserable. This just sucks. And you start looking at the bad things. And so I had to reshift my focus to realize, like, I'm where I'm supposed to be. This is the path that God has for me. Because if we were all meant to be on the same path, well, it'd be pretty embarrassing for some people who are introverted and don't like talking to people and getting on a microphone in front of a camera, talking to people, and then pressing record and then posting that on the internet for people to see. Like, for people to be like, absolutely not. No. That is crazy. I'm good. Yeah, you're insane. Get away from me. Don't put that camera in my face. So like, we're all on our different paths, and I had to just get comfortable with knowing that this is what my path is. I may not have some of those things that I say, like, man, that'd be really cool to have that, and that's okay. I'm just where I'm supposed to be. And I said, the reason I brought up Dubai is because I really want to go to, like, I told my wife, I was like, yo, listen, I was like, the couple I'm talking to, they're in Dubai, and let me tell you, I would go to Dubai tomorrow. Like, if I had the funds, I'm going to Dubai. But I told her, I was like, what I've been told about Dubai, you don't listen, y'all. Go to Dubai if you can, but
you will.
Also,
it's an amazing place. And
have some money when you go there.
And you'll be out here, and we'll be chilling out here. It'll be
Yes, have some fun when you go to Dubai, though, guys. Don't show up with $20 in your pocket thinking you're going to do enough to do some things in Dubai. I feel like you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Be realistic in your dreams here. And so the first real check that I get from Mediocre Dads, I'm just going to be honest with y'all. I'm probably going to go to Dubai. Like, I've traveled around Europe before. That's all right. It's cool. I'll take my wife to Italy. My daughter wants to go. I'll take them to Italy. However, Queon is going to Dubai. That's the only reason I'm going. And the only reason I'm going out that, going out that way. So it's awesome, man. Yeah. I love it. I love this conversation. I know, guys. Trust me. I caught on. It's the military intelligence side of me. He was interviewing me. It was great. I loved it. I encourage questions.
I learned so much from you, and I wanted to share, like, that perspective of the path. It's always going crazy doing that. Everybody around me, social media these days is just like all you're doing.
Yeah, dangerous.
And what I actually changed was another mindset shift of mine, is like, the path isn't like this, and the path isn't going up. I just believe that the path is just a circle, and it's just going around, and the circle just goes larger and larger and larger. So that way, it's like, it's difficult to compare, because some people's path were really just in the same area, same space. Once I looked at it like that, it was like, there is no like, competition. There is no one person's further than the other, because everyone's experience is in the spiral, right? Everyone's going around, so we're just all there. Like, once I thought of it that way, it's like, hey, you're there, I'm here. Like, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I do want to finish with a question for you. Sorry, guys. Again, I've talked a lot about me, which is great, but you also got his insight, so it's awesome. It's amazing. I love these these moments, because this is what I live for but you're doing what it is you want to do. You're where you're at, where you feel the place you're at right now. I imagine you're like, hey, this is what I was in a way searching for. I'm not going to say you've made it, but you're at the point where you're saying you're kind of like at a point where you're like, hey, this is the cliff, the part of the cliff that I always saw myself at. I just didn't know how I was going to get there, but now I'm here and I'm taking it in the fresh air, but I'm getting ready to turn around and start climbing again. Right. So for you have a son, and I imagine you mentioned you wanting to have more kids, and whatever the case might be. If you were to have a daughter, how you father your son, would it change? And I understand that answer is a yes, but for a lot of people, I'm not going to assume for you, but I understand for a lot of people, it is a yes. But that being said, for you, if it would change, how would that be?
Well, honestly, it would change because, of course, as a father, I think, when you have that daughter, it's just a different bond. And for me, it would be very different because I was raised with older brothers. I never had any sisters. So for me, there would be a change. But as far as the parenting aspect, it would be very, very similar, because what my son is telling me is how to be more present, how to work on myself and emotionally regulate myself so that I can actually be present for him and not have like triggers go off and blow up. And so I would continue to do that. And the biggest change for me becoming a parent was I always thought that I was going to teach my kids everything that I know. But what I've truly learned is I'm actually not teaching them much, because they're like, he's only 2 years old and what can he really learn? He's actually teaching me everything. So I just got to be open to what my daughter is going to teach me, whatever lessons she has to come in this world to teach me. And that's how I would look at it.
Yeah. I would say my daughters have taught me a lot of things, but one of the things that my daughters have taught me is, so you ever looked at a beautiful painting or a beautiful mountain or something like a sunset where there's a mountain there and the sun is just is falling right below the mountain, but beyond the mountains. And you're just like, man, this is such a picture perfect moment. But if you took a picture of it, it would just ruin the moment. You know what I mean? Right. But you ever see that and you're just like, man, it's so beautiful, right? I wouldn't want anything to ruin this. But you're like, I want to remember this forever. So you're going to do the one thing that you shouldn't be doing. You take out your phone and you take a picture of it, right? And so for me, at how I using saying that metaphor is my daughters are that beautiful sunset, and just every single time I see them. However, when they do things that require me to still be dad, but also punish them or give them a consequence of whatever the case might be, and they're going to be upset. No one wants to be punished. It feels like I'm ruining that moment, right?
Right.
But in all actuality, I am not ruining. So when you pull out your phone, you take a picture, you're not ruining the moment, right? And the picture is not going to do what you saw in person justice. However, when you show that picture to someone else, they're going to be like, gosh, that is so beautiful. That's amazing that you were able to capture that moment there. Like, I wish I could capture that moment. I wish I could have been there to capture the moment. And you realize it's just, hey, I had to punish you. Yeah, I did. And I didn't ruin the moment. I just I took a picture, I showed someone else, and I made that moment beautiful for someone else. And so for my kids, when they get older, they may seem like some people nowadays that complain about that. My parents were this, my parents were that. But in all actuality, and those are like your adolescents, you're like 18 to 22-year-olds who are just like, oh, my parents were mean. They spanked me. They did this, whatever. But then when you're 20, 26, 27, 28, you start becoming the person like, that's why my parents did that. And it all starts to make sense. So I say all this, say like, my daughters have taught me this moment of just like, hey, I understand they're this beautiful, beautiful picture. And if I don't want this picture to be ruined, or if I want to remember this moment forever, when I have to punish them, I have to come at it from a perspective of, hey, I'm not trying to ruin the picture. I'm just trying to I'm trying to make it last as long as possible. And that's building that foundation of what a father brings to the table. That's the thing my daughters taught me. I don't know if that metaphor made sense. In my head, it made complete sense, but I don't know if it made sense, but it made complete sense for me as I'm explaining it, because that's what my daughters are. They are this beautiful sunset. And if you've ever been to Arizona, if you have never been, I recommend you guys go. Arizona has the most beautiful sunsets I don't know any other place. I've been to a lot of places. I don't know any other place that has a more beautiful sunset than Arizona. And so that is what it is for me. But I am hopefully one day. So are you guys in the point where you're like, hey, we're gonna start having more kids? Are you guys just like, hey, if it happens, it happens, or it's like kind of like we're good where we're at?
Yeah, absolutely. The plan is definitely to have more kids. The second one prepared, third one, we'll see. See how things. God's plans, right? It always
Yeah,
is.
absolutely. I want. So are you say comfortable with two, or do you want more
You
than
know,
more two kids?
I'm really open to it. I'm open to two. I'm open to three. But I'll tell you a crazy story. I met a gentleman out here, and he had two kids, and he was trying for a third. And the third, he had triplets. Yeah, can you believe that? So now he has kids.
Oh, okay. So
Not believe it. When he told me the story, I was just like, "So you're going for three, and yet."
let me tell you. So my wife, I truthfully wouldn't mind having five kids, but I'm of the adopting the fifth. I don't want to have to put her through that five times.
Right.
But because I was adopted, I don't have any issue adopting the fifth kid. That being said, my wife keeps having these dreams where she goes, I keep getting so nervous that it's just like we're gonna show up to the anatomy scan. Like we know we're having a son already, but we're gonna do an anatomy scan. She's like showing up to the anatomy scan, and the doctor's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, there's twins in there. There's two of them." Like what I'm saying. She's just so nervous. So like in my head, I'm like, I don't think. So I don't have the gall to tell her this. All right, I do
Yeah.
not. But I'm in my head, I'm like, listen, God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
And he gave people many visions and through dreams, and part of me is like, I don't know if this is God's way of telling you like, hey, third one, you're 100% right, that's our son, it's gonna be great. However, the next time,
Yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah. I
might,
mean, I know.
you never know, and that twins might be coming. Because what's funny is when we found out we were pregnant again, everyone's first question is like, "Oh, are you guys gonna have twins?" Like, because I'm a twin. I'm a twin, so it's always a question. Are you gonna have twins? And it's like, oh, well, it's a generation, and they're like, well, sometimes, and I'm like, you're right. However, if we have twins, I'm done having kids. I'm just gonna be real with y'all. Like that, man. Like you said, like if triplets came out, oh yeah, we're done. It's a wrap. She's having the baby, and I'm in the next gurney over as they're doing the surgery to say, hey, you can no longer have kids, sir. Yes, thank you. This is what I wanted. I'm done. No more. Please stop it. No more. I can only afford so much, so and energy, like no. Okay, so it's a lot of energy for two kids, right? And it's
Oh, yeah.
gonna be a lot of energy for three kids. But that being said, like I tell my wife all the time, like, hey, I want multiple kids so they can go play with each other. Like they have each other. Like I love my kids. Don't get me wrong, Dad. Play with your kids. Hang out with your kids. However, there is nothing wrong with you sitting on the couch. Your kids are hassling each other. I do it all the time, and I'm straight up like
Yeah.
this. All right, hey, keep it down, guys. Keep it down. Yeah. Holy, y'all got each other to play with. I had a twin brother that I had to play. I had to figure it out. Me and my twin brother had to figure it out. And we had an older brother who would hassle us all the time. And my parents
Yeah.
were not like helicopter parents over us all the time. They're like, y'all are siblings. Y'all figure it out.
Yeah.
That's why I have y'all. So y'all can hang out with each other. Us as parents, we're here to raise you, take care of you, make sure you have everything you need. But however, the playing part, the really playing with you every day, 24/7, especially as they get older, no, that's what your siblings for.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it creates those bonds anyway, guys. Don't be. It creates bonds. It's what helps your siblings get closer. So you said two brothers,
I have two
right?
brothers. Yeah. I'm the middle child.
So like, you're the middle child. Oh, I'm so sorry. You don't get any attention.
Hey, that's one. I don't know what you're sorry about.
Well, so here's the thing. You get like, okay. So here's the funny part. It's if you're a person who's like, hey, look, the firstborn, they get this work. The second or the last one, the third one, they're the babies, so everybody pays attention to them. Me, no one pays attention to me. I move along. I do what I want. I'm good. I'm all for it. I love that. I wish that was the case for me. It was not.
And I feel the opposite, to be honest. I feel like I got the most attention out of out of the three of us. So
Did you really?
yeah,
Man, you're different.
I would even say, I think my brothers would agree. Even my younger brother, like it's funny when they talk about memories as us as kids. Parents will always bring up memories about them. They don't say, you know. My older brother way more than my younger brother, but yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
It's funny. My wife is she's the firstborn of three, and so she goes her sister and then her brother, and we all like so like all know like so like her brother is the baby, but like he's not a baby anymore, but like everyone still treats him like Tyler, you're so cute, and this dude's towering over everybody else. He's a pretty tall dude, and he's just like I'm a grown man. I got a full-time job. Like I leave me alone. I'm not a baby anymore. I make fun of her a lot. I love you, Kira, but I do make fun of you a lot because it is fun. And it's funny because her sister, my wife, she's like, yeah, everyone makes fun of Kira. We all make fun of her because she's the middle child. She just gets made fun of. So like when I envision hearing someone they're the middle child, I'm just like, yeah, you had it rough. Because if I've seen my wife's family, you had it rough. You're the middle child. I'm sorry. I feel for you. But if that's not the case, then you're lucky.
I think every family's different. I think, yeah. I don't know who had it the roughest. We all got it.
I always say the roughest, but what I do tell people, what I do tend to, because this is some realization that I've had, is the first kid that you have, especially if you're younger. I was 22 when I had my first daughter, and so pretty young, and so like we all have this in our mind, like, hey, this is the type of dad I'm going to be, this type of parent I'm going to be, and then you have your kid, and you're like, yeah, all that went out the window because that was all kind of based off of this fantasy child that I had created in my head of how my child was going to react and how my child was going to respond and what the type of personality they're going to have. Actually, they have my personality. So they tell me no all the time, and I don't know how to respond to when a little person who is 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, whatever. My oldest is 6 going on 7 right now, but it feels like she's 6 going on 15. I don't know how to respond to when she tells me no, or she gives me the attitude of just like, you can't do that. And I'm like, who are you talking to right now? Like, I want to throw something at you, but you're like, I love you, and I can't throw anything at you. And I'd hurt you. But like, who are you talking to? Where did you get this attitude from of like, tell me what I can't do? She came up to me and she turned off my Xbox. She's like, yeah, you're done with TV time. I'm sorry. I'm done with what? You can and like, if you ever play Call of Duty, guys, and you're in the middle of a game in Warzone, you know how frustrating that is. You know how frustrating it is. But you just want to think to yourself, yeah, you're just like, get out. Get away from me. Get away. Man, I love it. Oh my goodness. Hey, you know what, Aaron? This has been phenomenal. I love the conversation. I love just talking to you. I'm looking forward to when you and your wife get to come on together. Because, and I was telling your wife this is part of and I mentioned my passion being counseling, or having a passion to be a counselor. I really want to get into like the marriage and family counseling. Not saying you guys need counseling. That's not what I'm saying at all. Please, people, hear what I'm trying to say here. But I am saying I do think it's interesting when you can get a couple, when I can get a couple on and I can ask the same question, right, to the husband and the wife. And there's this moment where both of you know the answer, right? You know the answer, but it usually means it not makes one of you look bad, but in a way you're like, my time is to shine. And it's this look that you guys have for each other, or this little crack in the smile. It's like you're a soldier and you're not supposed to smile, but like you ask the right question, you're just like, do you want to answer, honey? Please, by all means, please answer his question. Yes, tell us. And she knows, she's like, or vice versa, right? Where she looks at you, she goes, yes, please, Aaron, answer the man's question. Tell him what he wants to know, right? But it's always funny because when couples, can you ask a question and you know that you've hit the right question, right? You're just like, oh, this is good. I love it. So I've always, for me personally, it's purely selfish, guys. When I'm going to ask questions, my goal here is to show a chink in the armor to get someone to crack, to be like, yes, please, Aaron, yes, I want to know, what is your opinion on this matter that we have been discussing.
I want to listen to questions before we come on here, by the way.
Man, it's going to be freaking awesome. I look forward to it. It's going to be amazing. Aaron, before we get off of here, where can people find you? What's the best place for people to go if they want to get looking for your services?
Best place is social media. Instagram. My Instagram handle is _Aaron Sosa. And you can also find what my wife and I do, revive _your life on Instagram.
Awesome, guys.
Follow us, message
Absolutely.
us. We'd love to
Absolutely.
connect.
Hey, follow their Instagram, guys. That's 100%. That's 100%. Follow him and his wife on Instagram. They have their separate account, but like they also have their it's Revive for Life. Is it what's it called, right? Revive.
Yeah, revive
Yeah,
underscore your life.
Revive Life. Follow like I follow all three of them. They're all three. They're his, hers, and then their Revive Life Instagram. Follow. It's freaking awesome. All of their stuff will be in the description below. Don't worry, it will be there. You can easily click on it and go and look at it yourself and find some more information. And if you're interested in utilizing their services, which I highly encourage people to do, you will see changes and difference in your life. It's amazing. And if you've enjoyed this conversation that I had with Aaron, also enjoyed the conversation I had with his wife, you guys are you're going to see more of them, but also it's going to be, you want to just be a part of it. It wants to feel like you want to be a part of them. Like, hey, how did they have such peace? And when you talk to them, they make you want to tell them more. Like when I'm talking to you, even talking to your wife, it was like, I feel like I'm so comfortable. I need to tell them more. They need to know more about me, so it's freaking phenomenal. I loved it. Thank you for being a guest on the show, Aaron. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you soon here on when we do one with your wife. I promise you, I will forward you the questions and a private email for only you to see.
Confidential.
This is only for you, only for your eyes. I'm joking. But hey, guys, thanks for joining us. Hey, and guys, as I always say, being mediocre is a choice. You have to refuse to be mediocre every single day. That's all I got. Mediocre Dads out.